have a topic for us today?
I do have a topic for you today. I wanted to talk to you about the difference between romance as you read it in a novel and romance as it was in the day.
Okay, let's go ahead and go with it. Tell us.
Okay, so most all of you that read my books and read other romance novels, you know that it's happily ever after. The male and the female, they get together, they fall in love, they get married, and ride off into the sunset, right?
Right.
Well, that wasn't the way it was in the day. In the day, it was all about maintaining the aristocracy and getting money into your lineage. So a female would come into the marriage with a dowry, a certain amount of money, and that was how that they would further develop their family.
Right.
They always kept it within the aristocracy, and then a lot of times they would try to keep it peer on peer level. If a girl came in or a young female came into the marriage, her father might have been, let's say, a baron, not a he's low on the totem pole, but she had $50,000 dowry. Well, she would probably find herself a pretty good husband. Now, if she had $50,000 in a dowry, but she had no title, it would have been pretty tough for her to have been able to break into the aristocracy. Because, like I said, they were a close knit group. When we read our books today, every book has a different lord. Every book has a different lady. It was not that big of a terrain or a population, and they wanted to keep it for themselves. So that is how they grew their hierarchy is that way, which you don't find it at all in real life. Like I said, it would have been, and for a governess to end up being married to a marquis, pshaw. That would not happen. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine how blackballed they would have been. And it's kind of nice to think about those kind of things, but it was tough to break in through that. It was very tough. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. So continue with what else would you like to add to that?
Well, in my books, especially the Four Horsemen, every one of those Four Horsemen are titled. Every one of the women that they end up being happily ever after with are all titled. I know that in one of the books, or two of the books, the husband doesn't even care about the dowry. He has enough money, but in real life, that wouldn't have happened. If something were to happen to him, and let's just say that he had in-laws or he had family out there in the universe that were buttholes, they could cast her out of the nest. And so her only recourse would have been to fall back on her family, her immediate family, or get her dowry back. And so that's what a lot of them did. Although I have to say, $50,000 dowry, that would be like millions of dollars today. But I also have written a couple of books where there was no lord and there was no lady, but they were wealthy. They were members of they called them merch. They had a lot of money, but they were in retail, wholesale, those kind of things. And so they might have traveled the periphery, but they didn't get the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So how do you think this conversation relates to your book?
Well, I think it relates to the book. First of all, it relates to any book because it gives you a frame of reference. When you're reading about the protagonist, male and female, like I said, most of mine, all of mine in the Four Horsemen, all four of them were lords and ladies. So there was no discrepancy. There was no issue to have to deal with as far as their rank or their title. Um, so that's simple. But then I'm writing two more onto that series. One of them is a lord. He is a marquis, but he falls in love with a woman that is not. And so it's a tough road that she has to hoe. And then throughout my first four books, you read about Frank Stewart. And Frank Stewart, he was the way we would classify him in modern days would be he was a private eye. He did work for the Realm on occasion, and he also worked with the Bowery Street Boys. So he was very capable, but he was never invited to any of the balls. He would never have access to go to any of those balls, but he was very integral to each and every one of those title people when they needed something. If I thought that my husband was cheating on me and I wanted grounds for divorce, they would go to Frank. Or let's say they were being blackmailed or a family member had been kidnapped. They went to Frank for that. But Frank would never, he could never go to White's. He could never go to the gentlemen's clubs. If he did, he always had to go in the back door. Yeah, so he was very limited in his access to the hierarchy, but they would come seeking him out when they needed something.
Okay. Where is the best place people can go? Is MinaValentine.com. Purchase the book.
Yes,
right?
MinaValentine.com.
And soon, very soon, the book will be out.
Yes, and just keep your fingers crossed. The only thing that's holding us up, and I told you this last week, the cover. My artist. Where is she?
Exactly. All right.